Okay, so we're going to continue reviewing the second part of section 3.2. So we're going to pick up looking at examples where we are determining truth value for a given compound statement. And so that compound statement is already written in symbols like the P and the Q, and we just want to say whether that statement is going to be true or false. Okay, so looking at this first one, you know that Q is a true statement. Okay, so we're going to keep that in mind. Q is a true statement, but the problem is asking us to do the negation of Q. So if Q is true, the negation of Q would be false. So I'm going to put an F down for that part. Okay, then I'm going to use my symbol here. All right, and then I'm going to do P. All right, so what does the problem tell me about P? It tells me that P is a false statement. So I've got another false there. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to go to my handout that you should have already printed out that I posted in Georgia View. Okay, and you need to look for what happens if the first one's false or the second one's false. Right, so if that's true, if that's the statement that we have, false or false, then the answer to that is going to be false. Okay, all right, let's go on to the second one. We're going to do the same thing here. All right, so the negation of P. What is the negation of P? So we know that P is false. So the negation of P would be true. So I'm going to put a true down there. All right, I have my symbol for if or only if. So I'm going to move that over there. All right, now I'm looking at my Q. So what is that? What do I know about Q? Q is a true statement. So I'm going to put another T here. Okay, so again, look at your handout. If you have an if and only if, and you have two truths, then the result of that is also true. Okay, let's move on to part C. Negation of P. Remember that P is a false statement, so the negation would be true. All right, I'm going to put my arrow, and then I have the negation of Q. So Q is true, so the negation of Q would be false. Okay, so look at your handout. Which one is that? If it starts out true and then it does if then false, that is your false statement. Okay. All right, so our last one, we're going to go through and do each part of this separately. So we start with the negation of R. What would that be? We know that R is false, so the negation of R would be true. Okay. All right, so now we're going to look at Q. So Q is a true statement. So we're going to put another T there and close that parenthesis. All right, we're going to do our if and only if statement. And then we're going to do P. So P is false according to our problem, and so we have this. All right, so now let's look at what we've got. We have a true and a true. Okay, look at your handout. What is true and true? Yes, so that's true. And then I have my double arrow, and then I have this false coming in right here on the end. Okay, so be careful with that. Does that make sense? The only thing I did was I did this part first. So I said this part is equal to true, and then I just copied the rest. Okay, now what happens if we have true if and only if false? That is false. Okay? All right, so then the other thing that we did is we actually started creating truth tables. So I want to review this with you. All right, so we're going to do two examples. We're going to do an example that has just the P and the Q, and then we're going to do an example that has the P, the Q, and the R. Okay, so remember that if you just have the P and the Q, the setup is 2 trues, 2 falses under the P column. Okay, all right, so make sure that makes sense. That P column, that's standard setup, 2 T's, 2 F's. All right, then for the Q column, the standard setup is true, false, true, false. Okay, so every time you work a problem with just a P and a Q, that's how you're going to start. Then we're going to go back up to the problem and see what else we need. So I need to do a negation of P, and then separately I need to do a negation of Q, and then I need to put them together in the whole statement. Remember that we build the left-hand side, and then we build the right-hand side, and then we put them together. All right, so let's go through the negation of P. Remember, this is the opposite values of these. These are the P's. Now we're going to do opposites. So I'm going to do what? False, false, true, true. Okay, now we're going to do it for the Q's. So here are my Q values. I'm going to do the opposite for the Q values. So what am I going to have there? The opposite of these. So false, true, false, true. Okay. All right, so now our last column, we're going to do the negation of P and the negation of Q. So in class, we did a lot of copying. I'm going to try to do that here. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to write down these negation of P values first. So just copying them over. All right, so that is F, F, T, T. All right, next I'm going to put my symbol in between. Okay, then I'm going to write down the negation of Q values. So that's this column, and I'm just copying it over. Okay, so FT, FT. All right, and then we're ready to get our final answers in here. Okay, so look at your handout. So these are the ones that are ands. So false and false is going to stay false. False and true will also be false. True and false will be false. And the only one that's going to be true is true and true. And so remember that these last 4 are the final answers. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and look at one that has the 3. All right, so if it has a P, Q, and an R, these are your standard columns, the ones I already have filled in. It's 4 T's and 4 F's. Then it's 2 T's, 2 T's, 2 F's, 2 T's, 2 F's. Then for the R, it is TF, 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 TF. So you go 4 and 4 to 2 and 2, and then alternating each one. Okay, now remember again, you're going to build left side, right side, and put them together. So the left side is already built because it's just the R. We got that. So the next thing I need to build is this right-hand side, the P or Q part. Okay. All right, so I'm going to start off and do some copying. So I'm first going to copy over column P. So these values right here, I'm just going to copy over here. All right, so all right, and then I'm going to put my symbol in between. And then I'm going to copy the Q's. So I'm now going to copy the Q column over. So that's going to be true, true, false, false, true, true, false, false. Okay. All right, and then we're ready to write our answers down. Okay, so again, this is going to come from your handout. You're going to look at the OR set and you're going to match them up. So remember that the OR is true as long as there's any truth at all. Okay, so this first one's going to be true. Second one's going to be true. Third one's going to be true. Fourth one's going to be true. This one also has some truth to it. This one has some truth to it. These last two, no truth, so they will be false. But you can pull those straight from your handout. Okay, last column. We're going to first copy the R's. So I am copying this column over here first. So that's going to be TF, 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 TF. Okay, then I'm going to do my symbol. Let's see if I can get this symbol done. Okay, and then I'm going to do the P or Q. So that is coming from the answers in that column. It's just copying it over there. So the first 6 are true. And the last 2 are false. Okay, and then we are going to work this part out. All right, so again, go to your tables, go to your charts, look for the if and only if one, and fill in the answers. So the if and only ifs are true if they're both the same. So 2 trues or 2 falses would stay true, but you can pull them straight from your table. Okay, so that finishes up the review on 3.2. Now, keep in mind that you have lots more examples in your notes from class, so if you feel like you need to go back and look at some additional problems, do that, okay? And you are welcome to email me if you have particular questions or problems that you want to look at. We can definitely do that as well.